Greetings and welcome to another insightful USPTO Women's Entrepreneurship Week program. I'm Nathania Ferguson, manager of the USPTO's Office of Innovation Outreach. My team and I support USPTO's mission by developing and delivering intentional outreach programming to inspire, support, educate, and empower underserved communities of innovators. I'm thrilled to be your MC for today's program. Before we get started for the exciting program, a few housekeeping notes for our virtual audience. If you get disconnected, do not worry. Simply use the same link that you used to join us to reconnect with us. We are recording this program. It will be posted to USPTO's YouTube channel. So if you miss any portion of today's program, we invite you to watch the program later, tell people in your network about the program also, and you can watch the rich panel discussion at a time that's going to be convenient for you. When I first learned about the theme for today's program, working for a purpose, women leading change, I actually thought about a very successful St. Louis businesswoman, inventor, and educator, Annie Malone. Some of you local to St. Louis may be familiar with Annie Malone, but for our virtual audience, I got to share a little bit about Annie's story. So Annie was born in 1869, and when she was in high school, she became interested in chemistry. But unfortunately, due to frequent illness, she wasn't able to graduate. But guess what? That didn't stop Annie. She continued to experiment with chemistry. She stayed true to her passion because she wanted to develop innovative hair care products for Black women that were experiencing challenges with scalp health and hair growth. So, as a result, Annie became one of the first self-made female millionaires. And I'm going to stress millionaires because, again, we're talking about the 1920s, right? And so, in addition to being a successful businesswoman, in 1918, she opened the doors here in St. Louis to the Perot College. So in addition to being able to learn about cosmetology, that school provided significant opportunities for Black women in employment. So Annie was teaching women how to be sales agents. Based upon many scholarly articles, one of those sales agents, Madam C.J. Walker. So when we think about Annie's purpose, it was much bigger than her own success. As she was climbing her way to success, she remembered the importance of paving the way for other women, making sure that she was creating opportunities that many women did not have or had very limited access to. So as we think about paving the way and providing opportunities for women entrepreneurs, it's now my privilege to hand over the mic to Keisha Mabry Haymore. She is the founder of this beautiful space that we're in here today, a co-working and event space, a place where inventors gather to connect, create, and curate.
What an introduction, right? And I told Keisha, say nothing, because I believe in women supporting women. And sometimes we do have to fix each other's crowns. Sometimes we do have to support one another. And IP protection is so important. Women supporting women is so important. The things that we do, the places that we go, our creativity, all the way back to the 1800s, we've been creating. We've been struggling and juggling and putting a lot of things on our plates, but we still continue to be creative and find that space and that balance to make things work for us. And a lot of times our creativity comes out of our struggles or our problems, but we still want to be building blocks. I grew up on the patent side of the house at the USPTO, and we think about patents as building blocks, as inspiration for others to grow, and as an inspiration for creativity. And I'm so happy to be in the room today with these wonderful ladies who are entrepreneurs in their own rights. Some of them have products, others have businesses, but they are empowered, right? And they want to help others and inspire others to grow and create. So I want to bring them each to the stage and have them tell us a little bit about who they are and introduce themselves to you, the audience. And I'll start with my friend Keisha. Come on back up here, Keisha.
Hey friends, again, Keisha Mabry Haymore. I am the owner and founder of Heyday, so the space that you're in. Again, we're a co-working space and event space. In addition to that, I'm a certified Grow with Google digital coach. So I coach digital marketing and support businesses with access to resources involving marketing and also funding. And then I'm also a wife and a mom. So that makes up the layers of who I am as well. So again, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to having this conversation with you.
Great. Thank you, Keisha. And as someone who has struggled with eyeglasses all of my life, the next person I want to bring up is Kimberly. Kimberly, please come to the stage and tell us who you are.
Hello, everyone. I am Kimberly Adanka, and I am the owner of Kimtique Eyewear. Kimtique Eyewear is a prescription-ready frames business, and you can also wear them as fashion frames. I myself, I am a mother. I am a K-ma to 2 beautiful grandkids, and I'm a workingpreneur, so I do hold a 9 to 5 as well. I'm excited to be here and share my journey with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. I'm going to be on her site because I love her glasses.
Please do.
Absolutely. Next, I want to bring up Shanae because she is all about helping people grow to their expectations, things they haven't even seen or know that they can become. So come on up, Shanae.
Hi, I'm Shanae Chapman. I am the CEO, founder, and managing director of Nerdy Diva, a tech company that specializes in user experience, research and design for websites, for apps, tech training, instructional design, business coaching as well. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm a proud wife. My husband is in the audience, so happy to be here and looking forward to conversation.
Thank you, Shanae. And last but not least, Dr. Natalie King. Come on up, Natalie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Natalie King, and I'm the CEO and founder of Fleuret. We are an integrated health and beauty company for women founded right here in St. Louis. We offer high quality vegan hair care and scalp care products for women, but larger mission, we want to help women see and have better health outcomes using something that they already know and love, which is their beauty routine. Outside of that, I'm a neuroscientist and I still work in global healthcare. And so, yeah, like the fellow ladies up here, we all doing our businesses, but we also have sometimes 9 to 5s as well. So I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to share what I have with you guys today.
Thank you. Let me just say this is amazing, right? All of you all are entrepreneurs in your own right. All of you all have other things outside of that creativity that you do or were doing before you started your journey as an entrepreneur. Could I just have you talk about and tell the audience one of your aha moments? What made you decide to step outside the box and become an entrepreneur?
So for me, I felt like that I was always something for everybody else. For corporate America, for my kids, family, and things of that nature. And although I knew I had a passion in me, I just wasn't really sure what it was. And as the kids get older, now that I'm empty nesting, it comes to the point where you're looking like, what's next for me? So I went on a self-love journey for myself. And with that self-love journey, the eyewear kept coming up. Like I was celebrating myself. I was making sure I was dressed the part, showing up and being intentional. And people were always pointing out the eyewear. So it just came kind of naturally for me because I've always worn glasses. I've always had the latest trends and the stylish trends, but I wanted other people to also go on this journey with me. So for me, the self-love journey is what sparked it all.
Great. And again, we love that you see clear now.
Yes.
We love that. We love that. Natalie, what about you? I mean, you're a neuroscience. I can't even imagine what sparked you to go into hair care.
Yeah. So first and foremost, for as long as that I can remember, I've always wanted to be a participant at the forefront of anything related to health equity. So even in my role currently, I work in many ways at that intersection quite a bit. And for all of us in this room, for the most part, it's not a nice to have; it's a need to have, right? Having that conversation. And for me, when I started to go more into the corporate space, of course, I started as a scientist, being in the lab. The personal challenge of trying to understand how to do my hair and coming from multi-ethnic background, I'm Jamaican and Cuban. There was just so many conversations that were coming up at the same time. And if you know anything about corporate world, specifically the Crown Act, these sorts of discussions were coming up quite a bit in terms of what is professional in the workplace, and really wanting to be a solution for women who, even if you're in the corporate world or if you're not in the corporate world, just wanting to have solutions that work for women around the world. And as far as the health angle, that is where I live. I live and play in healthcare every single day as a former healthcare provider, but then also now I'm just working in medical affairs. During the pandemic, I had my own health challenge as it related to health and beauty. I had a small bout of alopecia that came from the stress of the pandemic. And it kind of reminded me like, okay, well, let me go back into my background. What do I know about how health intersects with beauty? Started products in my kitchen. And I know she told the beautiful story of Annie Malone earlier. And it just kind of came to me that this is something that you could do more broadly. You have this awareness of health, you have this awareness of beauty, having the experience yourself, but how can you really spread that to women around the world? So it was kind of that. And then as far as the actual putting it together, we were all grounded during the pandemic. So I have generalized anxiety disorder. I actually have diagnosed anxiety. And part of the reason and way that I channeled my anxiety during that time was creating products. So it's kind of a multi-pronged story, if you will.
And we talk about women supporting other women's, but I just want to take a minute to say that families support us too. And you had a supportive father who said,
Yes.
your creativity, there are no limitations
Absolutely.
put on you. And so do whatever you want to do. And I think that's important for all of us to know and to have as we journey on to whatever we think or where we see us going.
He actually had a favorite phrase. He would tell both my sister and I, were both scientists actually. There's no such word as can't. So that word was not that was not a word we could use in our house. And my mom kind of kept that on as when he passed away. So there was a thing for him. There's no such word as can't. It's just, how are we going to do it? What's the solution? Who do we need to speak to? What's the solution? So
wonderful. Wonderful. All right, Shanae.
Yeah, for me, it's about creativity. And I come from the background of being someone who builds designs, spent a lot of time in corporate working on designs for big companies, but always had this passion of, I want to create something that is for me. And I want to create something that's for small business owners, for women entrepreneurs, for mission-based companies who really want to grow and want to build, but don't know how to do that, don't know how to use technology, websites, apps in a meaningful way. And it's so rewarding to be able to have my company and tell people, this is how you do it. Here's the magic, here's the secret sauce, and share that to so many people and see them grow and evolve over time. So that's really why I built my business, in order to be creative and share knowledge with other people who want that and want to grow and expand as well.
That's great. And you talk about supporting others, helping people build a brand and a logo that's going to allow them to reach outside of their original circle or even a circle they could ever think of. I think it's important to have. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. All right, my friend Keisha.
So it's crazy hearing everyone talk. I'm like, oh yeah, I had a piece of that. I had a piece of that. I think for me, I always had a side hustle. I never thought my allowance was enough. And my mom created this monster because she used to pay me for my grades. So when I would get like A+, I would get more money than a B. I'm like, oh, okay, I see how this works. So when I got that itch, I just started creating businesses. I'm like, okay, if I can sell grades, like what else can I sell? So we lived really close to like this candy factory. And so I used to purchase candy at a wholesale price and then sell it out of my locker in elementary school. So I would take the orders like the day before or during first period, and then I would like distribute it during lunch. I kind of sound like a candy pusher.
Both of us sold candy.
But I do like trap music though. So that kind of set the foundation for entrepreneurship for me. And then when I was 16, I had 2 jobs and I just always wanted to have a cushion. Like I just felt like you never know what can happen. And like if one well dries up, I just always wanted to have a backup plan. And from there, I just learned that you could always get a job. So in my lifetime, I've had 10 plus jobs because I will quit a job in a second. Like, let a manager come at me sideways. I'm like, I don't need this. And then I would go start a business or, I would go find another job. So I think having that safety net of family to be like, there is no can't, everything is figure outable, you got this, having that support system really gave me permission to have that drive and to not fear the things that are unknown, because entrepreneurship is unknown and it is hard and it is rough and tough and bumpy and lumpy, but everything is figure outable. And so whether you built that community with your family or built that community with extended family or friends, you can do this. And so always going into situations with that framework was the thing that really allowed me to start this business, start other businesses. And I'm sure this won't be my last one, because every time you start something and every time you go to the next level, then you see clearer. It's like a mountain, right? So as you climb up the mountain, then you see other things. So I'm just excited for all of us up here and for you all to go on this journey, because it really is a journey, but you got this.
Great, thank you. This is a wonderful group of ladies. I talked a little bit at the top of this this meeting about the importance of intellectual property. It can bring in investors and capital. So I would like you all to share with us a little bit of why you think IP protection is important and what it means to you. Natalie, I see you smiling, so I'll start with you.
I'm always smiling.
That's a good thing.
No, so in a product-based business, especially, and being in the beauty industry, there's a lot of discussion around IP because it goes well beyond just your logo, right? Having your logo and having access to that property or that ownership from that perspective is always great as well, because at least for me, when I started my business, I wanted to always be in the position where I'm thinking big, right? And like no one thinks that their business is just going to stay with their friends and their family. They want to go global, they want to go national. And a part of that process of going to those higher levels of whether it's distribution or whatever, I'm in the product business, you want to make sure that every step of the way you're protecting what you're creating, right? So that you can have different types of conversations, like you said, whether it's with investors. Investors want to know that when they're giving their dollars, they're sticking it behind something that has some level of protection to it, and they can fight for that if need be. So there's the idea of brand identity that we've protected, our logos, our colors, our this or that. Like that's one part of it. But then the other part of it is our formulas. We have formulas that we are producing and sharing with the market. And while there's certain things that you can't necessarily protect, you can't protect everything. There are things like key molecules, if we're using specific active ingredients and such. Those are things we can protect from the perspective of the brand owns those things, and we can leverage that later on. So there's so many pieces I think that I'm still learning about as it relates to a product business and how to really leverage that ownership later. But like I said, I've always seen our brand as a global brand. So if I'm thinking about getting to the next level and gaining access to greater dollars and access to bigger distribution, those things are so important for us to think about from day one. Because I think brands tend to think about it way too late, and then they're trying to like go in reverse. So I would just always tell entrepreneurs, regardless, thinking about those things from day one, even if your business never goes beyond St. Louis, that's fine. But still think about those things as best you can, because you may need that later on for different conversations that you want to have. So yeah.
Absolutely. Kimberly, I know you are excited to recently have received your trademark. So yes,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you. I must contribute my trademark journey, not to just myself, but one of my business besties that's here. We met and I was just the first year in, and I was excited about Kim Teague, and I had put all this stuff together and the colors and did all the things. And this was our first encounter, and we talked about my business. And the questions that he asked me, I'm like, wait a minute. He's like, you only been in business a year? Like, you did this and you did that. And I'm like, step back some, because he was just so intrigued. And he asked me, have you thought about trademarking your business? And I was like, not now, I'm just getting started. And he was like, but you don't know what you have here. He said, this is well put together. It's well thought out. Someone can just easily come in and take it. So the protection piece really heightened when we had that conversation. And I just wanted to most definitely make sure that I had my trademark just for the loyalty and my reputation as well. I feel like people take you more serious when it's time to have certain conversations. So that was the main thing for me.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to add?
Yeah, I want to add to that. I think it sets a signal that I take my business seriously, that I see my business as a global brand. I'm putting that out there into the world, and it protects you and your creativity as well. So if someone tries to use your brand name, you have legal authority to step in and say, hey, cease and desist, step back, So having that additional legal protection and having that confidence that I am building a worthy business that deserves to be protected. I am worthy. I need this. I'm growing. And it sets the stage for working with larger partners and clients as well. So I think that's a big piece of it as well, that mindset of I may be smaller when I start out, but I plan on growing. I plan on being global.
And what's mine is mine.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
What's mine is mine. And so, you all have trademarks. I told you at the beginning, I came from the patent side of the house. So I want to tell folks, just don't stop with one type of protection. We recently issued our 1 million design patent. We have, well over 10 million, 11
I
million.
need to get into that
patents.
side of
But
it.
please, absolutely, right? Because you can get, you have a brand and a logo, and that protects your use, right? And your products. But also think about what that design looks like. It could be a unique design of eyewear, or a particular container that holds hair products, or any product, right? So just don't stop with that one piece of intellectual property. Look into a design patent, or maybe even a utility patent. Check it out, right? You need to be protected all around, right? Because what's yours is not mine, right? And you want to make sure no one comes in and tries to take your creativity without your permission, right? So thank you for that.
Tell a story.
Yes, absolutely.
So, you hear that you should protect yourself. And for me, I didn't really buy it because it's an investment, right? And like every single category that you trademark is another investment. But when I tell you, a few weeks after I got my trademark approved, someone was posting stuff with my brand name on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to flex because lawyer write the things. And so when I tell you, I wrote
Stay ready. Stay ready.
I was about to fight. I was like, okay, put the trap music on, go there. So I wrote them really nice on Instagram. I slid in their DMs. I'm like, friends, I have this name trademark, so I need you to change your Instagram name. And they ignored me, y'all. They ignored me. And they were like, after a few days, they said no. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I'm about to go Little John on y'all. So I hit up my lawyer and I'm like, yes, friend, get them. And so the lawyer reached out and that Instagram name was gone. That page was gone. And that made me believe in the power of trademarking because I'm not going to lie, I didn't, friends. I was not sold. I was not drinking the Kool-Aid. But when we talk about protection, for me, I felt like someone big and bold was going to like come for me. And they did too. So like, do you all know masterclass.com? So my trademark is Herclass. So masterclass.com came for me as well. And then my lawyer was like, nah, she's good. But it's crazy. Like it really is a thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad I paid that money, y'all. You're right.
Absolutely.
You're right. Good thing I had good mentors because I was not sold. But when I invested in it, I needed it. And so what I'll leave you with this. Build the protections before you need them and they will be there when needed.
Absolutely. And I will say, I'm so glad you did that. And I'm glad you had an attorney to fight your battle because we don't condone violence, right? And
You're right. We are.
I'm so glad that attorney stepped in for you. Absolutely.
In spirit only.
Natalie, you wanted to add on to
No,
something?
I was just gonna, first of all, that was hilarious. I was just gonna say the idea of investing in this process, it can definitely be daunting for new brands because yeah, like you said, it is an investment, but I absolutely encourage you, especially if you're here locally, to get involved in some of the organizations and, you know, even some of these law practices out here, they will do pro bono work. And this is the definite thing I would say, let's go ahead and get some pro bono for, because you don't want to skip that step. You know what I mean? Just because you think the hurdle might be too high from a cost perspective. So
Absolutely. And we will have some of that at the end of the program for all of you. We'll provide some of that information. So we talked about building a brand. Shanae, you talked about that is your brand, right? Going worldwide. And we know building a brand is important to any business. Could you all talk a little bit about how your brand and building your brand has helped your business grow?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand who do you serve, who's your customer, who's your buyer, and separate that from who's your fan or your cheerleader. Because people who support you on Instagram or TikTok, they may not actually be the folks who are buying your services or your products. So again, really clear about who do you actually sell to and who buys from you. What problem do they have? Where do they have challenges? Where do they struggle? Where do they need your help? Where do they say, I can't do this by myself. I need to call somebody. Really getting particular about that and focusing on that in your marketing, in your language, on your website, on your social media channels, and speaking directly to them and saying, hey, I'm here from you. That problem you have, call me, let's talk about it, let's get you unstuck. And this is why I can be the person to do that for you. I have these testimonials, I have this experience, and make it very easy for them to say yes. So incorporating that into everything that you put out is really important.
And making sure people understand what building a brand means, right? It goes far beyond your circle, and it can reach worldwide. So the fact that you're showing them and telling them how to bring their best self forward is something that we all need. How about you, Natalie?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. There's personal brand. There's, you know, of course, our brand from the company perspective. I think for us, they both inform each other. Obviously, me being a healthcare provider and like my background and all the things, it informs effectively what I'm doing with Fleury. So they tend to speak back and forth to each other quite a bit. So I always tell founders, don't neglect your personal brand while you're building your company brand, right? And with that in mind, make sure they're consistent because, you know, it's tricky because like my personal brand, I tend to be a little more fun, playful, blah, blah, blah. But my company might look more serious. And so it can be very confusing for your community when they're like, well, wait a minute, is that the same? You know, they're trying to figure it out. So I always try to stress like the importance of consistency. So for us as a brand, we position as premium, we have premium products. It's a luxurious experience. So I try to make sure that everything that we do from that perspective is still reflecting those same elements, I guess I'd say. And our voice is consistent from that perspective. But I hope I answered that question. Okay.
All right. So as I look at women as business owners, they are really underrepresented as compared to men, right? And even though women are the fastest growing category when it comes to entrepreneurs, they are less likely to find investors, to secure that capital that will help them grow their business and become sustainable. So I think this is really important because if we're growing that fast, why are we so severely underrepresented in the business world as business owners? So I want to talk a little bit about you and any investors that you've had, how you secured your capital, and what helped you grow your business.
So I'll start. For me, I'm still looking for all of the things financial. However, a lot of things that I do for Kim Teague Eyewear is self-funded, and that's a part of the reason why a lot of female entrepreneurs still tend to grasp on to their 9-to-5, just because there's not a lot of those resources that are tangible or easy to go through. But through this process, for me being self-funded, I also, and I feel like a lot of female entrepreneurs, you have to stay true to yourself as far as what do you need financially. I knew that I didn't want to get in over my head. I knew I didn't want to take out loans and things of that nature. So I looked into the resources that were right there in front of me, like my e-commerce. So they have a small capital type of venture that I could go through. And for that, that was realistic for me. And I also think that it was a good guide to see how disciplined I am with obtaining funds. And then it's just going to take a lot of education on investors. Like, what is the right number? How much do you want to relinquish to someone else, and finding that trust in someone? So it takes a lot of research.
I can go. Yeah. Oh.
Go back.
So okay. So I'm trying to think of where to start with our story. So we are a brand. We did do an official fundraising round, but that's not exactly where we started. So I started first with non-dilutive options. So if you're local here, of course, you're familiar with Arch grants. During the pandemic, I did apply to Arch grants on like well, here we are. We may as well try it out. Like, had no idea where it was going to go. We ended up winning the 2020 Arch grant. And so that's kind of where we started from a capital raising perspective. And then I quickly realized it turned into this thing where we knew we were going to need more capital, given the fact that I wasn't what's considered white labeling products. So we weren't purchasing other products that currently existed and just putting our label on it. We were actually creating custom solutions, and that is a capital intensive sort of process with a local manufacturer. And so it became very apparent that I would need to have some resources to be able to do the things that I really wanted to do for women. So effectively launched into a full raise, and through the Arch grants, they specifically introduced us to various partners in the community. And I'll tell founders all the time, St. Louis is a particularly unique city because we're not on the coast, right? So we're not like the traditional like Silicon Valley and, you know, Chicago, you don't hear the typical founder stories, but the folks here, I think, that are in the funding communities and startup community, they're so welcoming, I think, in terms of helping people understand what the funding resources are and the free resources and the this and that. So anyways, they connected me through their community, and we found our first lead investor. So the brand has raised $500,000. Now, I say that to say it was the hardest $500,000 I've ever raised in my entire life. Okay. 2 years. It took me much longer. And I remember that process being a very demoralizing process. It can be very exhausting. I'm about to tear up right now. Just like, I don't ever want to do that again, but I know we're going to have to eventually. Because you're pretty much going in front of audiences where they're telling you your baby is ugly repeatedly. You're like, first of all, you're a bald-headed white man, no offense, and you don't know anything about, like you want to do that. And it's sometimes that's valid, right? Because they don't know the audience. They don't realize Black and brown women are not a niche. They don't realize we have $1 trillion of spending power. They don't realize we know our audience better than they do. And so you're having these conversations where you're repeatedly frustrated. But I say all that to say, yes, we were probably one of the ones who have raised in this category, but it was a very difficult experience and it was a very traumatizing experience. And like I said, I got lucky with a lovely first investor that's local and all of that. But beyond that, it can be challenging. So I always encourage founders to think, just be prepared mentally for that process. It can be a lot, especially for a Black and brown founder, particularly a woman founder. I mean, whole PhD, they asking me, do I know about the science? Let's be real. It was annoying. So you got to get prepared mentally. You got to know there are other sources. And so some of the women have already shared things like grants, non-dilutives, maybe self-funding for a little bit just to make sure you are understanding the fiduciary responsibility of your business. And, there's grants, there's other pitch competitions. I did a lot of pitch competitions beyond Arch grants. And so I just think there's lots of different ways to go about it. And I try to remind founders, yes, it's difficult. It's annoying because Black women only get 0.6 or 0.06 of the funding available, but try not to let that hold you back. Try to just remember that if you have a great business idea, the money is there. You've got to figure out where it is. It might take you a little bit longer and it might be much more exhausting, but you're here to solve a challenge that the women or men or whoever have. So that's what you focus on. Don't get so bogged down with how stressful it might be. So I know that's easy to say when you're on the other side, but that was kind of what kept me.
And you said you may have to do it again. So
Yeah.
that's a reminder to yourself. I also think it's important for you to know who you are when you walk through the door. Know your self-worth. Know what you have, right? And stay the course. I also think it's important to attract the right investor.
That part. All checks aren't good checks, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All checks aren't good checks, right? And how much are you going to give away? Can you really split your baby in half? All of those things are things to think about as you're walking through the door. But make sure you stay that.
You're effectively
course.
married to these people. So
Absolutely.
make sure there are people you can communicate with and you can talk with, and they can give you constructive criticism and feedback, but you also feel you can challenge because this is your market. This is your baby. Absolutely. All the things around knowing you're worthy of that space, and then not taking anything personal. Like, let it wash off of you each day and then you start anew. That's just the best way to do it.
Absolutely.
I would also, can I add something?
Yep.
I would also add, so prior to opening Heydays, I ran an accelerator to help entrepreneurs get access to funding. And the biggest thing funders used to say, they would say they wanted to build with founders, right? And so like their philosophy typically was, if you ask me for money, I'm giving you advice. But if you ask me for advice, I'm giving you money, because they want to build with you and be partners with you. And the other thing I heard a lot from investors was the fact that every business is not investable when you think about the type of investment and funding that you're wanting, right? So like a lot of lifestyle businesses may try to go after angel investment money or venture capital money, and that type of business typically gets funding through debt. or funding through friends and family or yourself, right? So like the thing that founders kept struggling with was they didn't really know the type of business they wanted to grow, right? Like, do you want to grow and scale a lifestyle business, or do you want to grow and scale a global business, or do you want to grow and scale a business that's regional, right? So really getting clear on your own vision is something that helps you get to the funding that makes sense for you. Because yes, we are still underfunded. We know that. And we're underfunded because there's not a lot of us who are doing the funding, right? And there's a lot more options that exist now than they did years ago, right? So like there's grants, as was mentioned, there's SBA loans, there's I can mention 5 banks: US Bank, Bank of America, BMO, St. Louis Community Credit Union. All of them have grants specific for women and founders of color. And not just grants, they have lines of credit, they have loans, all types of things with low interest. They have introductory 18 months, 0% APR credit cards. Like there's just so many pathways that you could take to get funding. It's just a matter of being clear on your type of business. And there's no one right or wrong way. It's just, how do you want to grow? And like, what is the vision that you have for yourself? So I'll leave you with these 2 things. Know who you are. Be okay with that. Don't let anyone tell you that that's not entrepreneurship. Know who you are. Know that you have options to grow however you want, but get clear on who you are. Number 2, build the relationship before you need it. It will be there when needed, because again, you ask for advice, you typically get money. You ask for money, you get advice.
Exactly. It took me a year to get my first lead. It was a lot of relationship building. Agreed.
Shanae.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Everyone said everything I was going to say, but the other point that I want to make is, if you have alumni networks with colleges, with universities, like I'm an alumni of St. Louis University here in St. Louis, but also of Northeastern University in Boston. So I stay connected to those entrepreneurship centers in St. Louis and Boston, and they often have funds for women entrepreneurs. Sometimes you have to pitch, sometimes you have to showcase your business to investors. And it's really important to stay in those communities so that you're getting the information about when those opportunities come up. So getting on the newsletter, getting on their social media, going to their events, then you'll be able to identify, okay, there's a new Women Innovator Award coming up, and you can win $15,000. I did that last year. So bring it on, bring it in. Yes. So definitely stay in touch with those networks.
Yeah, and that's very important, right? Build not only your brand, but build your networks and continue to use them, because they come in handy. Natalie, you talked about your challenges. I want to hear from you and others, because sometimes if we can see the path somebody's already walked down, we may still need to walk down that path, but we know we got to put on some sneakers rather than heels, because it's going to be, yeah, them stilettos, right? It's going to be a little rough walking down. So I would like each of you to just talk a little bit about some challenges that you've had, or maybe one challenge that you've had and how you've overcome that, just for some advice for our audience so they know how to handle as they begin to walk down that path. Natalie said we'll be
put it
here
in the
all
hat.
day. Okay, toss it up. I just need one from each of you all, just so we can share some advice and some wisdom to help somebody as they travel down the road. Go ahead, Kimberly.
So one of the challenges that I would say it's more of a mental, in the mental space, was more or less fear. And fear of, is my product good enough? Who else is doing it? The competitiveness, how will it be received? And it was just all like psyche in my head. And it was really challenging for me, because I pushed off my launch date several times just because of the whole fear thing. And I talked to one of my mentors, and we just had a conversation, and she said, well, have you ever thought about a hamburger? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, there's a hamburger place on every corner. And a lot of times those hamburger places are packed. Each one of them are packed and they're all making money. So, but when I took the fear away, even though like you talk about challenges, you can just throw them all in a bag and shake them up and pick one out and deal with it simultaneously or one at a time or however. But once you know what your path is and what your vision is and where the end goal is, and you get out of your own way and just execute, those challenges kind of dwindle.
That's great advice. And you know, imposter syndrome is real, right? Do I belong in this space? Am I really a business owner? But once you take that fear away and know again who you are and execute, and you also mentioned mentors, we'll come to that in a minute, but I think that is great advice.
I think for me, my biggest challenge has been hiring. So, you know, all of us here, we've started businesses, probably many businesses started in the audience as well. But a lot of times, most of us founders will focus on, okay, we got all the things, we've got our brand identity, we've got our product, we're launching, like we focus on the launch and then forget like, oh, we got to run the business. And if you're trying to grow, like that oftentimes involves, especially if you're still working your day job, like I am, that involves you hiring people to help you with your vision, right? And the longer you go without really properly assessing where you are in that journey of, I need help. Like I know as Black women, I will do everything on my own. I am the worst at this. Like I don't want nobody's help. I'm sure I was my mom's little terrorist when I was a little kid because I just want to do everything on my own. You know, and it's just kind of kept that same behavior has kept in my business. And it started to hurt my business in the first year a little bit because I just felt I needed to do everything on my own. And I was going to sleep at like 2 a.m. It was insane. And so I think for me, just like the idea of learning how to be a people manager, hiring people, understanding what the business actually needs and not stifling my own growth through wanting to keep everything to myself and not wanting to share the responsibilities with anybody else. So I think where I kind of overcame that came from listening to my family, listening to my friends. So my mom works for me in the company. I love her so much. She's like, what do you need me to do? I'm like, I just need you to be my mom. But she's like, no, I want to help. I want to do all these things. And my sister's the same way. She works in operations in her for the USDA, but she also helps me in certain things that I need. And then we've hired 2 people actually in the business doing various functional areas like marketing, et cetera. So I just think it's kind of like it's going back to that fear still a little bit, like getting out of your own head, realizing when the business needs more than just you, and realizing when your time is more valuable spending time doing strategic work, like where do we want to go running the business versus being in the business all the time. Like I was going home and fulfilling orders. Like, what are you doing? Like you start somewhere, you have to start somewhere, but at some point you've got to really be able to assess when can I spread my wings a little bit so we can grow.
And I think as women, we're no shade to you men, but we're used to juggling a lot of things.
Yeah.
Our plate is always full, right? And so oftentimes at work, I'll say, that's not my lane. That's not my lane. And we were talking about this earlier. And then you're moving too slow. So let me just jump in and let me take
Exactly.
it and I'll do it, right? Let me help you. Let me tell you what you have to do. And sometimes we've got to step back and step into that leadership role and say, Sinead, let me show you how to do it. That's what you're doing with your company, how to be efficient, how to make it work, right? And so I think that is great advice. Anyone else?
I guess I would just add focusing on ops. So one of my 10 plus jobs, I was a director of operations, and I knew the power of that in corporate America. But when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, oh my gosh, operations is the glue. So figuring out your automation, your systems, your standard practices, like really taking time to dig that out, that allows you to hire, that allows you to figure out the software you need to run your business more efficient, that allows you to make strategic decisions and incorporate looking at your data and thinking strategically and strategic planning. But without that foundation of ops, because sometimes we feel like we just got to go and ops require you to slow down and like, "Ugh, I don't feel like slowing down." But I promise you, if you slow down, you can speed up. So I think for me, just learning that really quickly was foundational. So I took a full week off just to get focused on operations, creating the job descriptions, figuring out the systems I needed to have for my business, doing the automation, doing all those things, so that when it came the time to hire, I had all of that in place versus trying to build the plane as I was flying it. So I would encourage everyone to go through strategic planning. I think that's the dopest thing about having a 9 to 5. I am such a believer of having a 9 to 5 because I think it teaches you so much about how you can effectively run a business. All corporations and businesses that hire us, they go through these things. They strategic plan, they look at their data, they do these things. So for you as a small business owner, you should weave in time to do those things too. So I would encourage you to get clear and stop for a second and focus on the ops.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Being a business owner, you deal with a lot of rejection, a lot of no's. You talk about fundraising, you pitch a lot, you go out for getting more money for your business, and most of the time you don't get it. So you have to be okay with, that didn't work out. Cry, dust myself off, and keep going. Keep going. And you have to have resiliency as a business owner. You have to be okay with other people not seeing you, other people not recognizing you, other people not believing in you and your vision, but trust the vision that you have and trust the plans that you know are right for your business and be able to stand firm on that. And some people are not going to support you, and that's okay. They are not your people. Some doors are going to close. Some clients are going to fall through and never contact you again. They are not the right people for you. And being, girl, look, and make sure that contract is legit. So have some lawyer friends so your contract is legit, and make sure that that you're taking care of yourself, because it's a lot of, some people say like, oh, it's a side hustle, but it encompasses so much of your life. It's not just something you put on the side. Even if you have a 9 to 5, it's still something you think about all the time. And taking care of yourself is so important with that.
Absolutely. Thank you all for that. Listen, they are dropping some great nuggets. I hope you're picking them up. You may even have to hit rewind to hear it again, right? But we appreciate it. A number of you all have mentioned mentors. So happy that I had a mentor. If I had not had a mentor, can you talk a little bit about what mentors and coaches mean to you, and what advice would you give a woman entrepreneur on how to obtain a mentor or a coach as they're embarking on their journey?
I'm still looking, friends. So if y'all know somebody, send them my way. Okay. I think it is so important, and we say it all the time, but finding one, oh my gosh, personally, I have not found the person that I believe is the mentor to really take me to the next level. Like, I have found people that take me to where I am. But whether you call it a coach, a mentor, or a consultant, you definitely need that person. So in the meantime, what I've done, I've joined accelerators, because even if I don't have that one person, I can get a cohort of people who can be thought partners for me, right? So some of the accelerators that I've done, I just finished the New Voices one with Essence, which was really cool. And I'm starting the Goldman Sachs one next month. So don't get discouraged, because finding your person is hard. Like, I've been looking, y'all. I put posts on social media, and the people who are sliding in my DMs, I'm like, oh, slide out, friends, slide out. But when I tell you, it can get discouraging, because I think as a founder, you can get in your own way, right? And you just sometimes need someone to bounce ideas off of. So until then, I'm just always in the framework and mindset of just get yourself around dope people. Get yourself around dope people, and then that person will appear whenever, right? God, come on, Jesus. They will appear when they're supposed to, but in the meantime, there are cohorts and tribes and spaces that can help you fulfill some of those needs while you are still looking. So again, personally, I have not found that person, so I can't give you advice, but I can give you advice on what to do in the meantime.
And also listen to We Wednesdays, right? When you have entrepreneurs sitting up here talking about their experiences and what they've gone through, so you don't have to go through the same thing, where they've been and the people that have shared in their lives. This right here it is a coaching opportunity for folks. So
Yeah,
Ma'am.
I just want to add to that because I've been in corporate environments where there's been formal mentor-mentee programs, and I've participated earlier in my career as a mentee, and then when I became more senior as a mentor. So those relationships can be formal, but they can also be informal. I have some mentors who I have never called them mentors, but they are women business owners in their 50s who have done things that I want to do and I haven't done yet. And I'll just have lunch with them. I'll just be in conversation with them and ask them like, hey, so I see you're teaching and sharing knowledge all across the world. Like, how do you do that? Like, who are the people that you know? Like, do you want to do some work together? And like being able to create those relationships is so important and give something to that relationship. I think a lot of times people think of mentorship of like, oh, I want to get something, help me find a job. And no one wants to feel used. No one wants to feel like, oh, you're only talking to me because of what I have and what I know. So being able, even if you are earlier in your career, being able to offer something, say, hey, like I saw this interesting article about AI that I think that you may be interested in, sharing something, sharing an event like this, and inviting someone to tea, to coffee, and building that relationship. So important. And sometimes it takes years before you see anything from that. And sometimes you may never have any direct, you know, tangible, thing that comes out of that particular relationship, but they may think of you for something else and introduce you to someone else in the future. So it's like planting those seeds to see what will bloom, what will happen in the future. Just being a decent human. Yes.
And pay for the coffee, friends. That's how you be cheap.
Right.
My friend likes to don't pay for the coffee.
Exactly. Being cheap. No, I second everything the ladies have said so far. I do think, for one, I think the idea of mentorship is different from sponsorship. So that I think that might be a different question. But this idea of leading with emotional intelligence and leading with empathy first, like a lot of people who, like they might be seen as notable mentors, they're getting pitched all the time. So what can you offer? Like, it happened this weekend at the All-Star game. I ran into someone and I was like, oh, I'd really love to work with them. But in my mind, I was like, they get asked all the time for things, right? And so they're kind of already coming to this space of, what does this person want from me, And so I just offered my services first. And like you said, it may or may not go anywhere in the end, but it may. And so I think sometimes you have to lead with this sense of selflessness to a mentor relationship or mentee-mentor relationship and just realize that, these folks are really overwhelmed just as much as maybe you are. On that note, thinking about, who's around me that can be a mentor, I'm going to find the information regardless. Okay. So that could be YouTube mentor, that could be Google mentor, that could be the entrepreneur who's just a step ahead of me. They might not be the person who's like made it to Forbes yet, but they might be that one or two steps ahead of me who's gone through the study. So I always try to think of, okay, who can I go to that might be a few degrees of separation from me? And also I'm known to slide in a DM or two. Like if I want to reach out to someone, I don't care how big they are, I will slide in the DM. And you never know, that could be an option too. But I think generally on the other side of that though, being a good mentee is very important. Like, are you listening to the feedback they're giving you? Are you being open to that feedback? I went back to the hiring question earlier. That came from direct feedback of my family, my friends, and one of my folks on my cap table, my mentor. And it's like, you can get all this great information all day long. Are you going to receive it? Are you going to implement it? What are you doing with it? Because there's information all around us all the time. So most of these folks want to see what you're doing with the everyday nuggets you're getting without them having to spend additional time with you if they don't think you're going to use it. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. This has been wonderful. I appreciate who you are and what you bring not only to this stage, but the stage, showing us that we can see clearly, right? Whatever we choose to do with our crown, that we will be supported, having a space just to show up authentically, right? We appreciate how you want to grow and scale, all of us. And so I just want to say thank you very much. Appreciated the conversation and appreciate you all. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Nathania.
Wow. 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 Woo! I'm inspired. I've learned a lot from this conversation. As Robin mentioned, we had so many gems from the rich panel discussion. Again, this panel is being recorded, so it will be available on USPTO YouTube. Please tell others about it. We do value your feedback. These programs are for you. We want to make sure that we are providing you content that is relevant and timely to help you get through your innovation journey. So if you have an opportunity today, please take the survey. We value your feedback. If you have any questions with regards to what you heard today, please send us a note at we@uspto.gov. A member of our team will get back to you. I know we're out of time, but I have to make a few comments here. We is more than just this programming. So we will follow up with all of our attendees to make sure you have access to our We Online Hub. So we have access to 50 plus resources that are going to help you throughout your journey to protect your creative works. We heard a lot of valuable information from these successful entrepreneurs. One key is to start, right? You got to start. And I think all of you in the audience, you're starting by being here. Remember, the no is not yet. So don't get discouraged, right? Remember also the importance of networking. I have to share this. I was here last year for programming, the National Summer Teacher Institute. So I love to eat. So I go down to the Foundry and I see the shop, Procure, by Women's Creative. So I go in there, I found these beautiful frames, Kim Teague. They probably thought I was shoplifting because I had them under my arm, on top of my head. There were so many frames. I'm like, I want one for every outfit, every mood. I also learned about Fleuret. I'm a breast cancer survivor, so it's been a challenge getting my hair back. And I fell in love with the Fleuret product and also the 30 plus products of women-owned brands. It was amazing. So talk about connections. So I'm excited, had big old bag. So I'm like, I gotta find out who this Christina Weaver is, right? So I connected with Christina and she shares information. And guess what? She connected us with Keisha. Keisha shared about Shanae and Nerdy Diva. So it's all about the community. It's all about creating a network, having people to support you, to keep you going, to provide you with advice, access to resources. And it's not just about women, because I see we have some men in the audience. We got to think about all of our allies, because it's going to take all of us to be successful, okay? The last thing, we heard a lot about access to funding. And what Natalie said is true. For whatever reason, women entrepreneurs aren't getting the funding that they deserve. But the good news is we have another program tomorrow. Black Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the T-Rex Center. There's going to be a panel specifically about access to funding. We are happy to have our colleagues from the Department of Commerce, the Minority Business Development Agency. They have an initiative empowering women of color. They're going to share information. We also have someone from the SBDC and the St. Louis Development Center. So there's going to be a rich conversation about how to access the capital that you need. But before we go, we welcome those that are in person to learn from our subject matter experts that we have here on site. So we have Christina. Christina, can you raise your hand? She is our trademark SME. She's going to tell you all about what you may need to know about protecting your brand, your logo, your name. And we also have Anand. Anand, can you raise your hand? Free legal services. That's right. Free legal services. So we know it's a heavy lift. We know you're struggling, but we do have free legal
Bestie.
services that will help you throughout the process of obtaining a patent or trademark. Thanks again. You all are wonderful, and we appreciate you deciding to spend your time with us today.